Welcome to Discuss With Us podcast, where we are unpacking the world through a Christian lens. I am your host, Darcy Durkowski, along with my husband, Brian, and our intention is to pose topics, trending and otherwise, and unpack them with the help of some research, insights from our different backgrounds, and even some listener input in a way that is thought-provoking and entertaining. So get comfortable, grab your favorite beverage, and discuss with us.
Welcome back to Discuss With Us. Darce, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little concerned with the rain post-barrel that we're having. Is it barrel or burl?
I don't know. I've never heard of that name in my life, never will again.
I know.
Hope everyone out there is doing well with power situations
Right.
and everything. We have power. I was not expecting as much wind as we got. I've talked with everyone, and I guess it's been since Hurricane Ike back in, I can't remember if that was 07 or 08.
Well, I saw one thing that said like Alicia was the last one that had where the line of the storm caught that much of Houston, I guess.
Now, Ike hit it pretty dead on. We up here didn't get much of Ike.
Well, I know, but
Houston
like,
got...
yeah, I guess that's true. But I think it was Alicia that had a similar, maybe not even a similar line, but I think that, because the east side of the storm is the worst, right?
West side. No, east.
Yeah, I think it's east. And so Alicia's east line had covered a lot of Houston. Anyways, we're getting into stuff we don't know about.
No, we're talking about the wind, though. The wind was getting hit
head
on. Ike was the last one that hit head on.
Okay. Yeah, no, the wind was bad, and
that's been like 16 years.
Yeah. Oh, has it really been that long?
Yeah, everything else has been like tropical. We've had a lot of rain events, obviously, with the flooding. The thing, we up here, we didn't get that much flooding or anything.
I know, and that's what I had on my mind for this was I was nervous about all the rain we were going to get, and I think I was just blocking out the possibility of more wind and branches down. And
yeah, I'm numb to that now. It just happens on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I hope you listened to our storm preparedness episode. If you did,
Yes.
You're probably in better shape than everyone else.
Maybe so. I probably should listen back to it to myself.
Yeah.
For myself. So, but it's on storm preparedness and life storms.
Yeah.
But anyways, moving on to this episode this week, we're going to cut right to it because we have a guest with us today.
Yeah.
And have a good interview prepared for him. So I want to get right to it and welcome our guest. All right. We are so excited today to have Ricky Dickson with us, former CEO of Bluebell. All of our local listeners know exactly what that means.
Summertime, it's time for ice cream, right?
Exactly. And I have enjoyed some Bluebell the last couple of days for our July 4th celebration. We had some homemade vanilla.
Yes.
But okay, so Ricky, tell us a little about your background here in Brenham and with Bluebell. Give us a little intro for those that may not know who you are exactly.
All right. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on. It's
We're very
honor
excited
to be here, and anytime I can talk about ice cream,
Yes.
you've got the right guy. That's for sure. Yes, I briefly started with Bluebell back in 1981. That makes me sound old. Gosh, let's see, Ronald Reagan, I think it just won presidency. Anyway, let's get past that. But I wrote a paper on Bluebell while I was in college. Yes. And from the paper and what I saw when I came down, interviewed with John Barnhill and Mr. Ed Cruzy.
Wow.
Stepped in the room while I was talking with Mr. Barnhill, and he said, "Who is this guy?" And so he sat down and we continued with our information to write the paper, which it was just really a really cool experience. And I thought, this is the kind of place I want to work.
Yes, I was telling Brian, because I read that piece in your book, and I think that is just the most charming thing about Bluebell that has remained until this day is the small town feel, the small town charm, if you will. Because I was telling Brian I had a very similar experience when I was in high school. I was cheer captain, and we had to get our like workout outfits for the year. We would get them sponsored by somebody. And so I went to ask Mr. Cruzy if Bluebell would sponsor our workout outfits, and they walked me right up to his office. I sat with him, told him what we were doing, and of course they did it. But he didn't stop there. Like, we had a full on conversation about about where I was at in life, in high school right then. Wow. And then he walked me down to the country store when it was still downstairs and enjoyed a scoop with me. So I have experienced that same charm, and I can see why that would draw you in when you're, especially at the time where you're kind of impressionable and looking for that career path.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. And that you just nailed him. That was his heart. He
yes.
loved working with high school students. And,
yes.
Just very, very relational.
Yes.
And I would ask the hard questions or the fun questions to make you think, like, wait a minute,
yes.
you just asked me that. But they just made you feel warm and welcome.
Yes.
And I remember John Barnhill one day. I would call him Mr. Barnhill. It's Mr. Cruzy, Mr. Barnhill.
Yes.
And one day he looked at me and he said, "You know what, Ricky? My FedEx guy walks in with a package and he says, 'Hey, John, how you doing?' He said, if he can call me John, you can call me John."
That's
Which
right.
I just thought that. I said, "What's out of respect?"
Surreal,
yeah. It's out of respect. I think
yes.
the world of them. And it really, truly was that culture that's, pulled me back. I was a marketing journalism major.
Yes.
And I laugh now. Journalism, partly because I love to write, but partly because I didn't have to take more than 9 hours of accounting.
There you go.
The CPAs are now all of a sudden turning their podcast off. I don't mean to do that.
Nah, hang with us.
But yeah, please, there's more, I promise. But just through the culture and through what I saw, I thought, I was leaning toward public relation or advertising.
Yes.
I worked for the Baylor paper and also worked for an advertising agency in Waco. And it came time, I thought, I'm going to go down and interview for, well, I didn't know. When you grow up, you don't know. One day I'm going to work for an ice cream company.
Yeah.
And yet it just intrigued me. So I went down and interviewed, and about a month later, John Barnhill called me back. And it was in the summer, and I still had one semester to go.
Oh, that's a good feeling. Yeah.
He said, "You have a job. You can go to Houston. You can go to Dallas. Just know when you graduate, you have a job waiting on you."
That's awesome.
One check. There you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly. So it made that last semester a little bit more
a little bit more challenging to focus, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that started the journey, and the book One Scoop at a Time is these chapters end and next one opens. I've been with Bluebell, or was. I keep wanting to say I'm still there because I still feel like I'm there. Retired a couple months ago after 43 plus years.
Wow.
That's incredible.
So,
congrats.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's incredible. And so you mentioned the book, One Scoop at a Time. So that's one of the main reasons that we wanted to have you on, is to talk about your book. It's Stories and Lessons from Fear to Faith. And I have had the book for maybe an entire day and a half that included a holiday, but I will tell y'all that I am more than halfway finished with it, if that gives you any idea.
She loves it. She kicked all of us out of the room and locked the door.
I did.
The boys said, "I'm reading this book right now."
Well,
I did. So I wanted to have you on. Our podcast, we try to view everything through the Christian lens, no matter what it might be. And, we said early on in doing this podcast that in order for it to be sustainable, it had to be, things that we were actually talking about. And we're talking about this book. So I obviously have read at least most of it and had some thoughts prepared and wanted to get your input on some of these. And so I'll start off. I'll dive right in here.
great.
Well, first let's hear when did the thought hit you to write a book? How did that go?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. I have had that in the back of my mind as the decision to retire started the process.
Yes.
And it was one of those things where we decided to land where our grandkids were.
Yes.
We had actually bought land outside of Giddings, out in the country, where we had the house we wanted to build. But to be really transparent, one night my wife and I were watching a movie. I got up to go to the restroom. I came back, and it was just something that hit me, that she has supported me for 20 years. We became empty nesters the day she came down here. And for 20 years, she's not complained once. She has been my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter. And it's my turn to support her. And so her heart is those grandkids. And so I said, we're going to Oklahoma City. She thought I was kidding. She said, I don't know what happened just now, but and I go, no, that's where we're supposed to be. And I have not looked back since.
Very nice.
So the book has been there in my mind, but yet I thought, really honestly, it would be after I retired. Once I retire, then I could sit and start writing, and whatever length of time. It was, I think, September of last year. I got approached by a publisher, and said, "Hey, have you thought about writing a book?" And it was through a really good friend. And I said, well, yeah, I've thought about it. And I never will forget. I said, when I retire, that's probably something I'll do. And I never will forget, she said, you don't understand, when you retire, you become irrelevant. I thought, what? I'm not going to the porch. I haven't even ordered the rocking chair yet. So I thought that was interesting. But her point was, look, this is you. And so I went, as I really honestly thought, and started praying, is this really what I need to be doing right now? My wife, we had already established our residence. Our home was up in Oklahoma City, but I was still here during the week, and then we'd going back and forth. And so I thought, man, I'm here all week. And, I'd come home from work, make a little something to eat, maybe watch 30 minutes or whatever,
right,
and then pull out the laptop and just start writing. And it just started to flow. I love to hunt. I mean, I took my laptop in the deer stand from 5:36 in the morning until noon. I would sit and write, and when you get tired of writing, you'd just take a break. It was the only time I ever remember praying, please, not a big one today. I'm on a roll.
Right.
You knew that was going to happen. The biggest deer I've ever seen is going to walk in, and I got to put the laptop down. But I'm giving you a long answer. But
no, that's good.
I felt like, I started with a paper. Let's finish with a book.
Oh, no, I love that.
And so that's why.
I love that.
Thought, let's just get going, and we took off.
Okay. So right off the bat in your book, in one of the first few chapters, you talk about I call it the Oklahoma decision. That's how I have it written here, where you had just been, I don't want to I'm like towing the line of not giving away too much about your book here. But basically you were in a really good place with work, surrounded by your very close-knit family, and you got this opportunity to advance your career, but in a different state. And so you were weighing the pros and cons of that. And what struck me about this, and the reason that I noted it, is your decision either way was perfectly founded. Either way, there was good and selfless reasons to choose either direction. And so that must have been so difficult. A lot of times we kind of know in the back of our minds what we should do. And in this one, I could see where you would sit there and struggle with it. And I wanted to read a quote from your text. So it says, "The closer the walk, the clearer his voice would be. The gift of choice can be difficult, to say the least." And I love that. We've talked a lot about choice recently, and have said, maybe not so eloquently, what you're saying here. The closer the walk with Christ, obviously, the clearer his voice would be. The gift of choice can be difficult, to say the least. And so that really struck me. I wanted you to talk a little bit about that decision to go to Oklahoma and searching for your peace in that decision.
Yeah, it was a very everything was happening very fast. I was still relatively young. I was still in my 20s. The opportunity to go into a new market, first time Bluebell had ever left the state with a branch location. We were servicing a little bit of Louisiana out of our Beaumont branch, but this was our first venture into a new market. But to be in San Antonio was like, the dream job.
Yeah.
I was a couple of miles from where I grew up. I have a sister, 2 brothers, and their families, and their my nieces and nephews, and my mom and dad. I mean, I could run home for lunch and be back in 20 minutes. It was just
ideal.
Yeah. I went to joined actually it was an Optimist Club, a civic club, with my dad and my grandfather. So here I am every week getting to go and sit, with family. And when the opportunity came, it was very tough. One thing Early on, though, I felt the process of going, and again, in the book, I don't want to keep relating back to the book, but I didn't really choose Baylor. I chose a girlfriend
Right.
that I thought was supposed to be the Mrs. Dickson.
Yeah.
I did put in the book, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
It did not happen. But that's what got me to Baylor into Bluebell. And so I have tried to, through my career, I've tried to keep that in check. That
Yes.
I'm not here for me. I'm here for why you placed me here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that probably was the clearness that, look, you can stay comfortable. You
Mm-hmm.
can stay here. You have every reason to. It really did help me empathize, and I'm real big on this, especially as I've moved in different positions, is I don't want to just sympathize with an employee. I want to empathize.
Mm-hmm.
I want to feel what you're feeling so I can help navigate and or learn. I mean, it's a two-way road. And so when we ask employees later, would you like to move to this location? And they say, this isn't a good time in my life to move. Man, I get it. I totally get it.
And you really
I love
get
you for it. Yeah. I don't want you to move. And believe me, if mama's not happy, life's not happy.
Amen.
I feel you, man. But in all seriousness, I think that it was at that point that I really did bathe it in prayer. God, really, is this the path that you're taking me? Or am I getting caught up in the wrong thing? And just had a real clear sense of direction that,
Yes.
no, this is where I'm taking you. And so
What I loved about it is, you just painted the whole picture of how comfortable you were there in San Antonio for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
All your family is there. And this is something that we just talked about in our last episode on the Great Divorce is, even a lot of the good things in our life can blind us to what God would have for us and making the right choices, if you will, in choosing his will. So I just thought that decision was very cool. I wanted to hear more about that.
Yeah.
So another question that I had for you is, so in that move that you made, you went from sales to operations, which it doesn't matter, I feel like, what industry you're in. Everybody can nod their head and go, oh, man. Sales to operations, that had to have its challenges, especially when you're in a leadership position, because you've got all these operations people now that I'm sure were like, who? And you painted that picture in the book. And so surrounded, whether you are thrust into a leadership position, surrounded by people that are all new to you, that has its challenges, or like we were saying, a lot of times I think it might be more challenging when you are positioned for leadership around people that you have worked alongside. I've personally kind of experienced that, and I would venture to say that might be most difficult. So I wanted you to talk a little about your style of leadership, which I think reading the book, and you said there would be servant leadership.
Right.
What does that look like for you, and how has that served you in your career?
I think at that particular time we had moved to Oklahoma, then moved from Oklahoma City to Tulsa, and so at that stage of not just me but our company, it was our first out-of-state plant. We had built branches, and we had a pretty good model on how a branch would set up, how far to go out, how to establish routes. But for a plant, how do you now make the same ice cream in a different location? In this case, a different state.
Right.
And it was the right decision to go because we were far enough away that if anything happened to either one of the plants, you still have a backup plan.
That's true.
Whereas we're close enough to where if something were to happen, that you could take care of it from either or. So when they asked that question, we were transitioning. I think it was a growth time for Bluebell. The particular individuals that were running the plant, one actually came back to Dimebox. He took over a family business that his father-in-law had passed away.
Okay.
And they said, would you step in as general manager and run the plant? And I probably had the same look that the management team had when I walked in. You have to understand, at this point in my career, I truly am locked in now, God, whatever that is. I truly, I have a thing I like to when I teach or work with college students or work with I was at the plant today, and a little girl came up and said, what would you give in the way of advice? And this is the same advice I give is I truly believe God has a purpose for each one of us. I truly believe that. Choice sometimes dictates where that goes. But if you can land on the purpose, and I pray for the passion, and that was my prayer to him, is God, if you, I don't care what it is that you have me do, put in me the passion to do it the very best I can, and not get caught up in titles and not get caught up in what the world's saying. And then the third point I like to make is then go with patience. Because a lot of times it takes a lot longer. So here I am in a plant, walking into a staff who knew me because they knew that, that Ricky's on the cells. He's over there. And
he's over there. I like how you say that. He's over there.
Well, and I love that we're all one family, one team. But you produce the product and then you sell the product, so you had that kind of a natural. But I walked in and said, "Well, here's the game plan. This is what we're doing." And it was just priceless. I would have given anything to take a picture of the room. They weren't rude. It's like, "What are we doing?"
Yeah,
that was the look on their face. And I told them, "Look, I don't know how to make ice cream. You do." And not only do you know how to make it, you make it incredibly well. So my job is just to put my hands on the steering column, and we're going to walk together, and we're going to take step by step, and we're going to keep this thing going. And so once I think felt that I'm not going to come in and start cracking whips or whatever it might be, because that's not the culture of Bluebell.
Right.
But it's the culture of an unknown, or it's
sure.
It's not the culture of an unknown, but it's the mindset of who are you and why are you here. And, man, I really, it was eye-opening for me because by nature, you give me a half gallon of spoon, I can sell. You take the half gallon away. Well, okay, I'm going to go to production now.
Yeah.
But all seriousness, it was just those years of being in the plant, running the plant, gave me the other side of what I call the equation. So not knowing.
Yeah, you don't know at that point.
Yeah, that was in the 90s. So in 2017 comes around, and they said, "Would you be willing to take the position of president?" And I'm thinking, "Holy cow, same thing." Is this mic on? What's happening here? But I knew again, if this is what you want, God, this is not me. And I've tried to say that from the get-go. I truly believe in my heart, if this is where you're putting me here for a purpose. It's not hard to have passion. I mean, to sell and make the best ice cream in the world is there. But to not miss what God's doing.
Yes.
To keep your eyes off yourself. And so that's where I started saying my daily prayer is to look up, not within, but then put within what you want. I want to hear from you.
Yes.
Mark Batterson's one of my favorite authors, and he wrote a book called Whisper. And in the beginning of the book, it talks about how when God really wants your attention, he'll whisper. Because when you whisper, you have to lean in.
Yes.
And God wants us to lean into him, not move away from him. So little things like that have stayed in my...
Well, you've just dropped probably 4 nuggets of wisdom. We can just kind of end the podcast right now. But I love your points about being able to pray for passion, because a lot of people, when we're praying and asking for God's will, if we don't feel that passion, we're like, "Well, God, no, I can't do that. I don't have any particular gift that way." But he can provide all those things. It's like when he was leading Moses and Aaron and asking them to take on, different tasks, and they're like, "Well, I can't do that." But God can. Yeah, so praying for the passion, that's an easy one, but accepting his purpose. I heard something one time that has stuck with me about what peace that we can have as Christians when we accept each and everything as God's will. And then just pray for what we're supposed to do with it. And I love your point about patience too, because it's so easy for us. You talk about then when you're 2017, when they ask you to run everything, you're like, "Oh man, that served me well." But how many years were there in between, where you weren't able to see that? We can always look back, but you got to have that patience to ride it out until you get that perspective later.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's good. What would you say to individuals looking for a place, maybe career-wise, work-wise, to put down roots and grow? What should they focus on?
Yeah, I would probably gravitate back to what I said just a second ago as far as really try to seek. There's going to be jobs that are stepping stones.
Yes.
I was fortunate enough to come to a company that was just on the cutting edge. I mean, we were in Houston and Austin and the surrounding areas of Brenham. And so when you think about it started in 1907, but it's 1981. And that's our footprint. So it wasn't that hard to see that, boy, I'm on the cutting edge of something really, really special. What I also loved was the fact that Bluebell wasn't going to try to be the biggest, the fastest overnight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Said, we're going to grow. We're going to grow at this pace, and we're going to take it. And Ed and Howard both said, look.
It's a unique perspective, I feel
like.
like.
It really is. I've said it. I don't know if we've said it a whole lot, but I've never said we're going to be number one. We're going to be number one. But I have said we want to be the very best we possibly can be, period. If you do that, number one will take care of it.
Well, and not losing sight of that, because it's easy to say we're going to be the best, and if we're the best, we should also be number one.
Right. And yeah, they'll do polls or taste tests. I think that people vote with their dollars. And when you look at the AC Nielsen reports, it's easy to say, wow, we've really, we're number one in Texas, number one in Louisiana. But I think you just don't want to lose sight, again, of just be the very best you can be.
Well, what makes you who you are?
Yeah. And it's opposite. You think of sports. You want to be number one in everything that you do. You want but to me, that's a number. I want to go further than that. How did the day go? And you want to give it your all every day, because that's the only opportunity you have. Was that day is, if you blow it that day, what's that going to do as far as erosion as you go down? And so,
and one thing that Brian was talking about earlier is the part that your employee culture plays in that, and I think that's something that gets missed on. People looking for their career, their workplace, is what's the culture of that. Brian was saying how important a culture is in a workplace and what part it plays in whatever type of product or service that you're selling.
Yeah, no, that's where for Bluebell, and spoiler alert, we live in Brenham, right? So everyone in this town is connected in one way, shape, or form to someone who works there, and I've always been impressed with the buy-in that all the employees have. Like, they care. And you don't find that a lot of places. Like, everything you're talking about, like, hey, we want to be the best ice cream. And even if we're not the number one sales of ice cream, we know we have a good product. And the people who work at Bluebell, it doesn't seem, you can be a dock loader, you can be a sales associate. Everyone in that company knows they're working towards that same goal. And from you have that trickle down from the leadership, and the passion that has to come from that, and getting that employee buy-in is just incredible, honestly.
Yeah. You've got to get past your number, your name and your person. That's part of the success.
Yes.
Was that hard when you were in Oklahoma City? Because that was kind of
I would
getting
say
that culture
probably
buy-in?
More so in the plant, when I went into the plant. A lot of times when the branches are opening up, you're bringing people from other branches to staff, and you do hire people as well. But the plant, when you hire 200 people to open up a new plant, then you're going to have a lot of new faces. And so being able to, I don't say that we expected it automatically, but we knew that this was going to be, something that's going to be new. They didn't understand that culture. They knew Bluebell, but as far as what does that mean?
Right.
But the leadership, even Howard Cruzy, the first day we're making ice cream is down on the floor.
Oh, wow.
And he's leading the charge, and so they saw early on that no one is above anything.
Right.
And going back to servant leadership, I have found more joy just getting to know any level. I don't care. I don't even like to look at them as levels. I use in some of my talks the relay race as a good example. Every leg of that relay race has a function.
Yes.
But anywhere along the line, you drop that baton, the race is over. And so I don't care if you're from receiving milk to making the product, to putting it in the cart and putting it in cold storage, putting it on transport, getting to the branch, getting to the store. Every one of those legs is incredibly important. And so you have to do it. You have to do it right.
And if you are a leader who displays that kind of attitude, then your employees feel valued, and valued employees work harder.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. One question that I wrote down that I think everybody will be interested in your answer is, what? Obviously, Bluebell has seen a lot of success, but also had some tough times too. And what was, or have you seen yet, the blessing that came from the listeria crisis several years ago?
Yeah, great question. And I would say probably, I've been with the company over 43 years, not 100 plus, but at the same time, and I know we have some stories way back that were probably what I'd consider dark days. But obviously, this was a very, very tough time in the history of the company for a lot of reasons. But I think the blessings that have come was just a really, really sharp focus on not just I want to say not just doing it right. We were doing industry standard. We were doing what everybody. I've got friends in the industry all over the country, and when we talk about, well, what do you do? What do you do? We were in some cases ahead of even that, but all of what we learned was just tremendous. And again, I go back to the employee embracing that.
Yes.
We didn't know that. Where does it go from here? What's going to happen? But at the same time, we knew if we put our head down, we work hard, pray hard. That we're going to be on the other side of this thing, and just an incredible, just raise the bar way beyond that it needs to be raised, even to the point where even today we look back and say, well, man, we went really far on this. Yeah,
I would say as leadership, almost like how proud does it make you of, okay, this could have been something that's a huge challenge to overcome, and it didn't even hang around that long for Blue Ball. I don't know what all the inner workings for you guys were, but living here, it seemed like everyone that works there just doubled down, put their head down, and as leadership at the top, that just had to honestly almost make you proud to see how people rose up and just pushed through to make even a better product then.
The beauty of it was the employee still has to buy into this.
Yeah.
And the fact that let's do this. I mean, we all of a sudden now we're doing captive shoes. You walk in, the first thing you do is take your shoes off from the outside and put on a pair of shoes that have never been outside and still get washed down as you walk out of that room to make sure. Testing like you wouldn't believe, testing final product. We have just the most robust program now.
Right.
That, I hate to say, but I could probably talk as much about microbiology
that you never thought you'd ever do before, huh?
No, it goes back to you pay attention in school, kids.
Yeah. That science may pay off. Absolutely. And my heart breaks when I see other companies today that, oh my gosh, I know where you're at. And, just when life throws stuff at you, embrace it. And pray hard and now how can we navigate? And I use that word very strongly. You have to, how do I navigate? How do we navigate? And the team just did I think a remarkable job.
Right.
There were mistakes. You fumble, man, but the heart and soul is we want to get it right. We got to get back. And the reception that people were writing saying, well, we're waiting. And then they were.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably, I don't think there was we all cried. There wasn't a dry eye in the place when those trucks rolled out. And seeing people line up from the freezer all the way out the door of stores at 4 or 5 in the morning, it's back. And it's like, because you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. So.
And you talked about it being uncharted waters, and I know it had to be for you guys, but Brian and I have talked way prior to this, really as it was going on probably, about what Trailblazers Bluebell was at that time. Because I would venture to say that lots of other creameries and not even just creameries, but other food production companies had to kind of check themselves after that and follow suit. So Bluebell, it was uncharted waters. It was tough, but you also got the opportunity to be trailblazers, I would say.
I'm just glad where we're at today.
Yes, definitely.
And no looking back as far as, just keep these solid programs in place. But I go back to we just got to, it's every single day we walk through that door. You cannot let up.
Yes.
Every day is a new day, a new beginning, new opportunity. So, anyway.
Very good. On a different note, so and this is kind of all along the same sort of
I think so.
deal, the same sort of company that Bluebell is, and the people that are there. So Bluebell gets asked to provide ice cream to memorial services and those in hospice by different customers. What has it meant to you to work for a company that does that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a great question, and probably if anything hits me deepest is the passion that people have for the product.
Yes.
I am amazed, and I'm not saying that other ice cream company has out, they have people that have passion, but the passion just is incredible. It's part of their fabric. It's part of their life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a product that you can celebrate an incredible day, or you can erase a really bad day.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's waiting.
Yes.
And you can count on it. And so the responsibility to me to be consistent when they get to that expectation.
Yes.
To consistently meet the expectation that drives the passion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the passion's, that's what I talked about earlier. People are passionate about ice cream. And so we've had some really touching, unbelievable request and or ask how our product has just been part of someone's life at a celebration of life funeral. There's few that I've included in one of the chapters, and then I designated a whole chapter, one particular called Tanya, that I'll let you read.
Okay.
But it really showed the heart and soul, I think, of the company. We got a request. I'll set the stage. We got a request on December 28th, which was on a Friday at 4:30 in the evening, from a lady that was panicked. Her sister was dying, had been dying, had cancer, and had been told that it's getting very close. And she had two requests. One, to live to 59 years old, which was going to be the following Monday. And two, when she did pass, that they would have Bluebell ice cream at the celebration of her life. And it's 4:30 on a Friday, going into the weekend of, you see where I'm at.
Yes.
And I'll leave it, but the things that took place to not just make that happen, but the purpose behind of why that was so important. It's just an incredible story.
You probably never thought that when you first started on your path of that company.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. And Tally Tootle, who's my administrative assistant, took the call. And they couldn't have called anybody better. I mean, it was right in her wellhouse. And she came in and she goes, "We're taking care of this now." And so you'll enjoy the chapter called Tanya.
Okay. Looking forward to it.
Bookmark it.
Yeah.
Good chapter. But yeah, going back to it, it's very touching how the product just affects lives. And so I've said, you can go home at the end of the day and say, "What'd you do?" "I made ice cream." And it's so much more than that.
Oh, yeah.
So much more than that.
Right.
And so you don't want to let anybody down when it comes to that, including your own family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Okay. On a lighter note, Brian has a question for you here.
What's your favorite flavor?
That is a lighter note. I almost jumped in. Well, I'm going to always go with homemade vanilla to start with.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like you have to, though,
Yeah.
isn't that?
Yeah.
Don't you sign that over when you start working there?
Yeah, when you
It's the first question on the employee application.
So I've done a handful of the different podcasts.
Yes.
And they go, "I have a question." I say, "Homemade vanilla." They go, "How'd you know?" It's there. But, it's just such a unique flavor that there's nothing else that I've found out there. But if you push that over to the side, it's in the All-Star or Hall of Fame.
Right.
Today, I would say salted caramel brownie.
Ooh, I actually haven't had that one. So
gosh.
sell me on it right now.
Man, it's just the combination. It's not too sweet, but it's that salty caramel ice cream mix, and I should have the exact cells. I'm going to tell you how I would describe it. It's just a tremendous just the combination with these brownies that actually are very chewy. So when you bite down into it, you're not getting a hard brownie.
Oh, yeah. I'm sold. Brownie in the ice cream,
salted,
you've got me.
Oh, no. It's, I'll tell you, when it rotates out, I'm looking for a 3-gallon of it. And we keep a 3-gallon in our freezer. My wife and I both just love it. But anyway, doctors told us to ease up.
A little indulgence is
We
fine.
may or may not do the same thing with Cookie Two-Step. That's one of our favorites.
Yeah.
Isn't that the one that
Ice cream cone.
Ice cream cone. Back when ice cream cone, because I don't know if that one's made all the time,
No,
right?
it's seasonal.
When that one comes around, so Olivia, my sister, was working at Bluebell at the time that one was out, and Brian doesn't really text my sister all that often, but there were times that he would be like, "You need to bring home
ice cream cone if you got it." Yeah.
ice cream cone,
Ice
please.
cream cone and tin roof; those are up there.
Yes.
But and then we were talking because on the book the cover is, I guess, is that strawberry?
Strawberry.
Yes.
Yes, strawberry.
And I love Bluebell's strawberry, but we were talking is it homemade vanilla and strawberries? What do they call that?
Strawberries and homemade vanilla.
Yeah. That one is, because homemade vanilla, if you're listening to this and you don't have vanilla ice cream from Bluebell, A, you need that, but B, the strawberry and homemade vanilla, it's simple, but it's like one of the best ever.
And I'll tell y'all, so I'm talking right now to my fellow chocolate lovers. There are lots of flavors that I love. I mean, you just heard me. I started drooling basically when he started talking about that brownie pieces. I am all for the chocolate. But if you have not had the strawberries and homemade vanilla, do yourself a flavor. A flavor.
A flavor favor.
See what I did there? Do yourself a favor and get that, and you can drizzle some chocolate sauce, chocolate syrup on top of it.
Now, I have an interesting question here. And maybe you're just, we're younger, and so we missed it maybe. But it seemed like since 2010, there's been like a lot more emphasis on different flavors. Like there used to be the standards that would rotate in and out. And in the last like 5 or 10 years, it's like just, you had the Dr. Pepper float coming out and all these different unique, where y'all also started using brands like the Dr. Pepper float. Where did that come from from marketing, I guess, for, hey, let's really push the envelope here and try different flavors and stuff, because it's gotten a lot more unique, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that what's interesting about ice cream is you have how many combinations of whatever, but at some point, and yet every year, I call it like writing a song. You have the same notes on a piano, and yet you can sit down and all of a sudden create something brand new. And sometimes it's a one-hit wonder, or sometimes it didn't work at all, but sometimes it takes off, and so like a cookie two-step, Millennium Crunch, and those type of flavors. That's kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
The creativity of a flavor is usually for a Bluebell connoisseur. Is I wonder what's new in the case.
Yeah.
We do have our 20, 21, 22 standard flavors that are out all the time.
Right.
And they are the ones that are their go-to.
Yes.
They have the
They keep the lights on.
Yes, thank you. Exactly. And then there's some flavors that it's interesting. They're seasonal from a lost on the word. They're seasonal from the standpoint that they're good for just a period of time,
Okay.
not necessarily a year
Long
round.
term, yeah. Okay.
So a Southern Blackberry Cobbler, for instance, when we come out with it, it's unbelievable how well it does. But there's a period of time where it just...
It's like a bell curve.
Yeah, exactly. And yet it's very strong, great numbers, but you don't overcook the egg.
That's almost got to be fascinating to look at the numbers on something like that.
Yeah. So you're studying bell curve, or you're studying sustainability.
Right.
Or like Tin Roof, where it's a good flavor. If you keep it out all year, it can... I don't want to be stale. That's the wrong word.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we do it with restaurants.
Yeah.
We find a restaurant, we pound it. The next thing you know, I've been eating there so much. So
Yes.
A lot of times it's going to sound wrong. And gosh, forgive me when I say this, but sometimes you want what you can't have.
No,
Right.
it's true.
Yes.
Like, look,
Yeah.
it's genius. Like, Tin Roof's out right now, and I'm like,
There
let's
it
go
is.
get some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But you're right. You would get monotony, because that's what's cool about Bluebell with the seasonal ones is you're like, right now, Tin Roof's out, so I want Tin Roof. But then it's like Bluebell knows what
Yes.
it's ice cream, but they know what's good for you. When they change one for maybe the more winter months and stuff,
Yes.
it's like, oh, that one fits really well now too.
Exactly.
well, so we had the discussion on the Dr. Pepper float. When that one came out, that was pure genius, because was it last year around like summertime?
Or it's not been long.
Or maybe it was this year. I don't know.
No, it's last year. 'Cause
Okay.
This year was A&W Roper.
Yes,
That's right. Okay.
So-
So that one, when I tasted that, I was like, this is the perfect summer flavor.
We always say that.
And-
Every
and
time
we
we
said
try
that-
a new one, we're like, this may be the greatest one they've come out with, and then you try another one.
And I also have to say that as somebody who can blindfolded taste test Dr. Pepper versus Dr. B versus Dr. Thunder and all of that stuff, and I can tell you exactly which one is the correct one. Y'all hit the nail on the head on that one. Like, it was so good. So, yeah, and I'm sitting over here like
everyone's pulling ice cream out of their freezer right now.
I know. I'm also just nerding out on what you're talking about here on sales analysis.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's part of what I do with my job, and I'm just like, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm glad we got these details in here.
And it's fun to see that, and you do want to keep it fresh, keep it fun, keep it interesting. The ones that get me are the flavors that just don't sell at all, and yet they're the most passionate people. That the ones that don't.
Oh yeah,
oh,
I'm sure.
It's
yes.
like, boy, my wife, if she was here, and she almost came with me. Chocolate almond marshmallow was a standard flavor for probably 30 years, and it slowed down, and then we didn't have it out, then we brought it back, then we didn't have it out. And yet, everybody I talked to at work, Greg Bridges, my wife, I mean, I could sit here and name different people. That's their favorite flavor. And we put it out there. And
but those people are loyal to it.
Well, especially so my wife's like, man, even the president of the company will not even make my favorite flavor. And I said, maybe it's all about, supply and demand, and you only have so much shelf space. And you want the flavors that will, do the most. So.
That's awesome. Okay, so last question here is one that we always ask our guests. What for you has been a game changer in your faith, whether it's a specific moment in your Christian walk or a habit you picked up or dropped? What has been a game changer for you in your faith?
Well, great question. And I was very fortunate to grow up in a Christian home. And when I say that, not just a Christian home, but my parents stressed so hard about having a relationship with Christ.
Yes.
Not just going to church. They said, anybody go to church. And Dad would say, do you want to check a box for an insurance policy, or do you want to become the bride of Christ? And so if you're in a dating relationship, you're not only in the infatuation, but you're in the growth. And then you get there are days that you're angry with God. There are days you're so thankful that he's right there. But having that relationship step by step and keeping the focus on that daily. And there are days it's hard. I won't lie. But when I got to Oklahoma City, when they had asked me to move and making the decision, okay, I'm going to leave family and nephews, nieces, all the activities to go to a foreign land.
Yeah.
Although now it's going to be where I'm going to, probably that's where my tombstone will be. That's where those grandkids are. And so anyway, I really thought that, I'm on the right track. And by not, but when they make the phone call, now I'm trying to think if we even got into this, but when I got the phone call to sit down, what I thought was going to be the big promotion, we're moving you up, it was just the opposite. And to be told that you're not doing the things you should be doing, and then having that raw conversation with God. Look, I came here.
I left everything.
Yeah, I'm here for you. I'm here for all the reasons I thought were right. And as quick and clear as I thought those thoughts, it came over me. He said, "You're not here for your promotion. You're here for my purpose." I'll never forget that. I mean, even to this day, I think back to that like. Yeah, you're exactly right. Now, was I angry still? I won't lie. So what's that mean? And yet he said, just if you will trust me. So that's probably 1990, 91.
Wow.
In 1996, I'm asked to run a plant. Never dreaming that I'd now be on the production side versus the sales side, but not knowing 20 years later or whatever that to step into the role of running the company. And to have all that now is to be able to look back. So it's easy to look back and say, okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
But the book is all about how do you have peace in the middle of the storm?
Yes.
How do you find faith when things just seem so crazy? And I think I have a line that says, how do you anchor a boat when the waves are bouncing and coming over?
Yes.
And I gravitate to Mark 4. I've used that as many times as I can when the disciples are on the ship or the boat. I guess they didn't have ships back then. But edit that one out. But when they're on the boat and Jesus goes to the front, he goes to sleep, and the waves come, and they're just beaten. And I can just see them, and they're taking water, they're dumping out. We're all. It's during the night, and finally go, do you not care? They wake him up, which
Yeah.
still blows my mind. The fact that he's able to sleep. Who sleeps? I mean, even if you're having a good day.
I want that kind of peace.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. And, he says, you have little faith. It does a mic drop. Everything goes perfectly still. And he says, that moment, I live for that moment. I call it, just the part that you can lay down and say, Christ, you have this. This is yours. And it takes us so long sometimes to get to that. But when you get to that, you finally get to the peace that passes understanding. It's my favorite, Philippians 4, 6, and 7. Don't be anxious about anything, but in everything with prayer, praise, and stipulation. I messed that one up. I went too fast. But the peace of God that will guard your heart and your mind.
Yes.
It passes understanding. I don't get this, but how do you get to that peace? And that's what the book is really, truly all about. How do you get to a point that, look, I don't understand this, God, at all.
Right.
I don't like it, but you're still God. And
Goes back to that accepting everything that happens as God's will and the peace that comes with that. I like it.
and I'll do a better job on my Philippians 4, 6, and 7. It's in the book.
I mess them up all the time. Darcy needs to hurry up and finish the book so I can read it because this is awesome.
Yes. So stories and lessons from fear to faith, one scoop at a time. Tell us where we can get your book.
Where and when?
Yes.
Okay, couple of places. The simplest, just go on Amazon. Or you can go
Nice
to
and easy.
onescoopatatime.com.
Okay.
And you can order it there. Or you can go to rickydickson.com. You can order it there. Or on July 18th in the afternoon, 19th and 20th, I will be in the country store.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
The 18th, I think it's from 1:30 to 3:30. The 19th and 20th, I think it's from like 10 till 2.
Okay.
And we'll be signing books. Just love to meet whoever. And I mean,
Yes.
seriously, we were there today, and I was having more fun talking to people from New York all the way down.
I
to
drove
Florida.
by today. It was packed today.
It was crazy. I had a little corner. The people were walking up. What are you doing?
I drove by and I thought, now it's funny that we're talking. I was like, Bluebell needs a bigger parking lot for because there were people all over the place. I was like, man, July 5th for.
It's a great turnout.
Yeah.
I was wondering who's running this place. No, I'm kidding. Believe me, that's a tough one. And,
No, it was just cool. It was because I thought about it. I was like, we grew up here, so we've gone, but it's like second nature. It's just there.
Yeah.
But how cool that an ice cream. I mean, it is ice cream, but people come from all over the place just to tour it and get that experience.
Yeah. I had a handful of people say, this is the first time I've ever had it. Where are you
Yeah,
from?
that's the other
wow.
thing. If they're from New York or
Yeah.
something like that.
That's awesome.
But you know what? I have always thought this was the coolest thing, and my dad's the one who said it. It's one of the only brands that wherever you are, like if you're in Louisiana or something like that, and you're getting like a milkshake or something, and they stipulate we're using Bluebell ice cream in it because people care.
Means something. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it
Absolutely.
does.
It's like, oh, that's grade A if you got the Bluebell in it, and we've laughed about that when we've gone out of state and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And so you can pre-order right now. We still have a couple of days before
That's
it technically comes out.
Yeah. It comes out on the 16th of July,
yes.
but you can pre-order now.
And I'll share the link on our Instagram page, and so you guys can go look at it there and follow it and get your pre-order in, because pre-orders are important, are they
Pre-orders
not?
are important.
They're
Yes,
very important. And so pre-orders are important. We want this to be a great thing for you, bless a lot of people. So guys, go pre-order. Just trust me.
Yes.
It does a lot for the book itself. So go get your pre-order in, and it'll just be
the reviews.
Yes.
The reviews are just
That's a
as
good
important
point.
on the backside.
Okay.
If you can get a lot of, whatever the review is. Well, wait a minute.
Well, yeah, let's edit. No.
Yeah, no kidding. I have ice cream if you need me. Contact me at rickydixon.com.
Okay, so follow the link and get your pre-order in. Mr. Ricky, thank you so much for
thank
joining
you.
us
Absolutely.
today. This has
Absolutely.
been so fun.
Well, great. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Brian, tell us what we have coming up.
I'm
Well,
not
as
sure
much
what
as we know anyway.
We're back to square one. I don't know what we're doing next week.
We're going to see if we can get the interview with Milk and Honey in next week. We'll see if we can do that one. And either way, that one's on the near horizon.
someday.
Yes.
Yeah, if not, we'll just come up with something as we always do. I work best under those circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think the listener choice that's been up on Instagram, I am excited to see what comes up there because that would be more fun for us, I think.
Yes.
Not to have to come up with it. So give me an idea.
So yeah, our listener's choice episode is going to be the one that airs on July 21st.
Or earlier if we decide.
Yeah, I guess so. And so I've been running some comment boxes on Instagram, Facebook, some posts. There's a post up right now. Go search for Walter the Brave Goat. He's the post front for that.
He's a mascot.
Yeah, pick for attention. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah.
And you can drop your suggestion there for whatever kind of topic, or even if you don't have a topic in mind, but you have a guest in mind. We've gotten some good ones.
If you want to talk Astro trade deadline deals or anything.
He's talking to you, Aaron. So go leave your suggestions there. We already have some good ones, and I haven't shared any of those yet, although I may do some of that this week to kind of like prompt more thought on it. But I want to get some more suggestions because I want to have a good, what our goal is to get all these suggestions and then bracket them and vote, have you guys vote on Instagram, Facebook, and
then even if you don't win, we have ideas for later.
Yeah, exactly. We'll use your ideas down the road. So we would have like a topic bracket. So that's coming up. Rack your brains for a good topic there.
Yes. All right. So one last time, make sure you get your pre-orders in for One Scoop at a Time by Ricky Dickson. And that was such an awesome interview. And as we unpack one scoop at a time, you go discuss.